Hey everybody, it's Jurius Doctor, and in today's video we're going to cover basic ship movement. This is part 2 of the ship orientation video. In the last video we talked about how to interface with your different multifunction displays in your ship, how to interface with ship controls in your cockpit, how to read the outputs and the controls that you are seeing, and basically how to understand what they mean. In this video we're going to actually demonstrate these features in practice. We're going to show you how to safely exit and re-enter landing bays, and how to navigate and turn on your quantum drive and getting around in space, as well as navigating to and from different planetary locations, different interstellar locations, and how to engage and disengage decoupled flight and freezing and unfreezing your gimbals. So controlling how your guns fire and where they fire. We're also going to cover basic missile engagement and how to use your ship in combat. There will be a separate video for ship combat where I will demonstrate the difference between lead and lag pips and some advanced combat understanding, including decoupled flight. So stay tuned. But to get started, let's start by calling the tower using the keybind that we set up in the last video. You can also do this by opening up communications menu or using an MFD to set your communications to the friends group. Choose the name of the station or starport that you're in. That is the start of asking them to let you take off. So I'm going to do that now using the F3 key that we bound in the last video. Okay. So we've requested that they allow us to take off. They've given us the okay to proceed. My ship is on. You can see that because everything's lit up. There's nothing red here on my HUDs, nothing red on my screens. I can see that I have hydrogen fuel and I have quantum fuel. What if my quantum fuel or hydrogen fuel is low? Or if my weapons don't have a full charge? Or if I'm missing any missiles? I can toggle back and forth between using the middle mouse button click or whatever I've bound on my joystick. Well, you can press F1, come to maintenance, and if your ship requires refueling and it's not currently bugged out, you'll be able to choose to restock your fuel, reload your fuel from here. Now, to take off in a ship, and right now I've toggled to the exterior using the F4 key. It's the same key that we use when we're in first person to switch between first person and third person camera mode. But when I switch to the outside here, taking off is space to go up, control to go down. Just like in a first person shooter, space to jump, control to crouch. The commands for going up and down are very simple. If you're using a keyboard and mouse, which you likely are, unless you've come from games with a lot of joystick use, your commands for moving around a ship, forward and back, left and right, are W, S, A, and D, just as they would be if you were playing Doom or Skyrim or something else. Rolling your ship to the left is Q, and rolling your ship to the right is E. Those are the keys on the other side of W. So let's see these in principle. Well, the first thing we want to do before we do that is we want to lower our thrust by scrolling down the mouse wheel. We're going to lower this down to sub 100. And the reason for this is that if you just take off or press and hold spacebar while your thrust is set to your maximum SCM speed or maximum safe combat maneuvering speed, you're going to go launching up into the ceiling. Your ship's going to explode. You're going to be really sad. Sad times, bad times had by all. You don't want to do that. So first thing you want to do is lower your thrust cap down to sub 100, and I definitely prefer getting it down to about 50 meters per second, which is that first pip between minus 100 and the bottom of the chart. And what this allows us to do is have a little bit more control and a slower departure speed. So if I press and hold spacebar, I'm going to take off. I only have to tap space a couple of times. If I start going too high, well, I'm going to run the risk of running into the ceiling or that lift. If I just tap the control key, it'll take me back down. The camera angle so you can see that a little bit better. So you can see the thrusters underneath are helping me counteract the station's gravity, and I can change my thrust up and down, and as I go up, as I go down, thrusters on top of the ship are helping to push me back. Now when it comes to actually moving forward, it's just W to move forward. S to go back. Now, you'll have to counter thrust to go backwards because you've got to return your ship back down to a 0 forward movement. But moving forward is fairly simple. So right now we're moving at a slow speed. Under 50 meters per second. It's a nice slow departure. But I have the problem that my landing gear is still down. To pull that up. Now, the shortcut key for changing your landing gear status is the N key, as in Nancy or November. When you hit N, your ship will withdraw your landing gear and stow it. Some ships just fold the landing gear up and it's still visible on the outside of the ship. Sometimes it folds away into a little compartment like it has with this Hornet. And sometimes your ship will change the position or fold of its wings or position of different armaments when you pull up your landing gear. The animation itself doesn't really matter, but putting your landing gear away accomplishes two things. One, it makes it so that your ship is ready for a standard flight. And two, it makes it so that you're unlikely to have any problems with your landing gear. The other thing is that if you engage your quantum drive, which is basically like warping, your landing gear will automatically retract because you can't go into quantum if your landing gear is down. It will just pull your gear up automatically. So, moving. Here, we're still moving at a fairly slow, safe speed. You can see this by the fact that very slowly coming away from this bay, the station is moving around us. Tab rings are spinning. General placement's good. We're just coming out of the bay. Eventually, that bay will close behind us when we leave safe space. There we go. Okay, so we've left departure range. Bay starts closing automatically behind us. I'm currently changing my camera angle by holding down the Z or Z key and moving my mouse cursor while I look around. Also still holding the forward key or W to move forward. Now, we haven't increased our speed yet, so we're still going about 50 meters a second. If I let go of the W key, what happens? Well, the forward thrusters will fire and try to return my ship to a 0 state of no longer moving. The ship will stay in place at a stop. Even though my engines are idling, the forward thrusters are casually firing to keep me in a 0 move. This is called coupled flight. Do this again. So I'm going to increase my speed. I'm going to go back inside the canopy here. I'm going to increase up to my safe combat maneuvering speed, and I'm going to fire the engines. And I'm just going to go forward in a straight line to demonstrate this. So, going straight forward, ship engines fire. When I let go, the forward thrusters, which are much smaller than the rear thrusters, will fire and continue to fire until the ship is able to return to 0 momentum, until we stop moving. Same goes if I try to go up. So we're going to go a little bit further forward just so that we're not going to run into you. And now I'm going to come to a stop, and then I'm going to fire the thrusters down from my ship. So you're going to see this here. Thrusters angle down. Now I'm moving up. Thrusters are firing downwards. When I stop holding down the space bar, I stop climbing. And what's going to happen is the thrusters on top of the ship are going to bring us to a stop. So I'm going to let go. And the top thrusters are now going to try to bring us to a stop. If I want the top thrusters to fire to push us down, the control key, just like crouch. Move down. When I let go, the opposite fires underneath. The bottom thrusters are bringing it to a stop. What happens if I want to roll? So if I want to change the angle of my ship around the Z-axis, if I want to go this way, left, or if I want to bank right, or rather roll right. Rolling left and right is your Q and E keys. Let's see that again from the rear. So, roll left or right. That's the Q and E keys, and you can see the thrusters will fire appropriately to accomplish that rotation. Moving left and right is using your mouse cursor. Rolling to the left and rolling to the right. And on some ships, you'll see that the engine itself is redirecting the thrust as it is on this Hornet. And in some cases, it's just left versus right engine overpowering. In atmospheric flight, the ailerons on ships that have ailerons or standard wings and control surfaces will alter the level of the control surfaces to increase lift or decrease it on one or other the side of the vessel. So based on the orientation of your wings and your fuselage, the different control surfaces will alter their angle, and you'll bank, turn, or roll in one direction or the other. Now, moving left and right in space, it's really just your thrusters firing that kind of change your direction, changing your angle of attack up and down. Now, you'll notice that when you're looking through your cockpit, you have a compass. If you're going to the right, the numbers will decrease in value until you reach 0. So, north, south, east, and west, these are your cardinal directions. If you go the other way, those cardinal numbers will increase until they reach 360, and then they'll set back to 0. Your angle of attack is how high or how low is the front of your nose aiming. And it will start from a 0 value, which on a horizontal plane basically indicates that you're more or less flat respective of the nearest object that you're close to, in this case the space station. This is definitely not 0 elevation respective to the planet beneath me. I'm actually sitting at about a 45-degree angle from the planet's surface, or more or less perpendicular at this angle. But as you climb up, those values will increase in positives. As you climb down, they'll decrease in negatives, and they will go down until you hit 90 degrees, and then they will begin switching over again. And again, this is all respective to your angle respective to the planet. Up, they'll climb 90, and then they'll climb back down. Now, in space, it's a little bit different. In space, you'll go to a maximum of 65 positive or 65 negative, because it's more or less relative. It's entirely based on where the nose of your ship is facing respective to the things around you in space. It's all basically made up. 360 degrees of freedom, where you're facing up is relative to the direction of your seat. So it's all really relative. Now, you'll notice as I strafe left or strafe right, I always have to return back to 0 in order to stop moving, and the ship will automatically try to return me to 0. If I stop thrusting, ship stops. And you'll see that over here, your absolute velocity is kept track of in this little box here. So as I move towards my max SEM speed, it's going to hit about 190 meters a second. When I let go, it's going to take about 6 seconds total to bring me to a complete stop. The faster you go, the longer it takes to stop. Now, when we push past our SEM speed and we move this thrust cap up a lot higher, we will accelerate well past our SEM speed. But above those speeds, you're going to see our G-safe indicator here indicate that as we're accelerating, we're going to start approaching 9 or 10 Gs. At those kinds of speeds, you're actually seeing the weight of your body increase in terms of the pressures on your character. So when you start cornering or taking quick dives at dives or climbs at those high G, you may actually see your character begin to black out. The field of view will start to get darker, the screen will start to turn red. You may actually hear your character choking, and if you allow yourself to get too high into the G's when maneuvering, or if you use your Afterburner, which is accessible using the boost key, which is your left shift key. So if I increase my speed quite high and then I press and hold the shift key, I will turn on my Afterburner and the boost will fire. When your boost is firing, you will automatically begin suffering from high G's, especially if you're attempting to turn. And here we go, my coupled systems are trying to return me. Stop automatically. Now, my ship is saying, please halt your current velocity. I'm currently being scanned by the local security services. I've muted in-game voices just to cut off any sound that would be coming from other players using proximity voice. But basically what's going to happen is that my ship is going to be scanned by local security forces to see if I am carrying any questionable goods or any contraband, or if I'm hauling bodies or anything that isn't supposed to be on a ship. They're going to scan me and decide if I'm good to go. So right now, the pilot of that ship has messaged me and he's saying, yep, everything checks out. You look good to go. Cheers. Now I'm good to flee. When you want to land again, you'll get close to the station, and I recommend doing this at a much slower speed, but I'm getting here close. What you're going to do is you're going to get in close to the station, just like this. Not too close, because you don't want to risk running into it. But you're going to get in a little bit closer, and what'll happen is you'll get a message that says, please contact ATC to land. So air traffic control. You're going to press that F3 key we bound earlier. You're going to see your communications, dial the local station tower, that was the top right. And then you're going to get a message saying, please proceed to the assigned landing bay. Here you can see that I've got a light direction that's sending. So I'm going to start navigating towards this circle with the downwards indicator, and it's telling me, hey, we want you to go here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving in this direction, and I'm going to start reducing my speed, a little bit more control. I'm really going to want to drop this speed below 100. And here they're saying, hey, we need you to stop again. We're going to scan you again. And they scanned me again, and they think I look fucked. Now, I move in here.
Check fire.
Somebody was shooting at me. They're saying halt current velocity again. And that guy's trying to ram me. He's trying to ram my ship, essentially. I'm going to lower my landing gear.
Landing gear deployed.
And I just got a crime stat because I moved when the security guards were telling me to stop.
Shields hit.
And I'm going to get out of my ship while I can, before they blow me up, hopefully. If I can. I didn't turn off my ship shields, but there we go. So that's how Gankers work, by the way. I didn't anticipate to record that in this video, but that is how griefers work in this game, is that they intentionally try to get in your way when you're trying to land, and they hope that your ship runs into them so that you're treated as having done something offensive, and then the ship's weapons or station's weapons will turn on you and begin shooting at you because you've incurred a crime stat. It's a type of griefing. It does occur. So I guess my next video, I will return to covering the rest of the flight dynamics, including using decoupled flight and controlling your weapons. So decoupling your flight mode, which basically we'll get into in the next video. We'll also cover how to lock and unlock the gimbals for weapons fire, and we'll cover using your quantum flight, so how to get around between planets, and how to accelerate your flight to interstellar bodies. And we'll cover those in another video, but it looks like I will now also be recording a video about how to deal with your prison sentences and your crime stat, thanks to our lovely Gankers and griefers. Again, my name's Jurius Doctor. Thank you for joining me for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to throw those questions and comments in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed to my videos yet, I encourage you to do so. If you'd like to know when my future videos are coming out, go ahead and click the bell icon, and you'll get notified of any future videos that come up. Again, I do welcome all questions and comments, and I do make an effort to respond to everybody who comments. Thank you so much for your time, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.